Hey everyone, in this video I'm going to talk about the difference between social media marketing on a platform like Facebook and paid advertising on Google AdWords, and why it's important to understand the difference between the two. So the reason I wanted to talk about this topic today is because recently I had a comment from one of our clients that he tried Google advertising before in the past, and it had been very expensive. It cost him I think he said something like £90 per click, whereas Facebook was costing him mere pennies comparatively. It wasn't pennies, I think it was a few pounds or something like that. And I said, okay, that's interesting. So one costs you £90 and the other one costs you a few pounds. How many of those people from Facebook converted into actual clients, and how many from Google converted into actual clients? He wasn't totally sure the answer to that one. He didn't really know the numbers, and I said that's kind of a key bit of information for you to understand in terms of cost, because it might be that someone costs you £1 to get the click, but if the click doesn't go anywhere, then it's effectively wasted £1, right? Well, it's not necessarily a wasted £1, that's another story. It might be that they just wanted, they may be relevant, and it may be that they touched with your business and now they're aware of you. But let's assume, for the sake of simplicity in this case, that the £1 didn't go anywhere, it wasn't relevant traffic, or they weren't interested in your service. Or the click was just to get some engagement, right, in Facebook. Clicks get you a lot of different things, right? So the difference is, in Google, you're talking about people with intent, right? And that's the key difference. People in Google have intent already in that moment. They're at a totally different stage potentially in the sort of customer or client life cycle. They are looking for, if your search terms are and your keywords are correct, they're looking for you, right? They're in that point where they're looking for you. So whereas Facebook, you're talking about an audience of people that have an interest potentially in what you're doing, but they're not quite necessarily at the same stage, right? So the traffic there may be cheaper in terms of getting attention, but it may not be, and it's unlikely that they're at quite the same stage in terms of readiness to do something, right? Because ultimately this is just about getting people to do something, right? You want them to engage with your business in some way by, maybe if you can get that straight away, then buying your service or buying your product, whatever it may be. So I said, well, that £90, if it converted to a customer, or, you know, if every 10 of them convert into a customer, and your customer value is, say, £2,000, let's say he's got a high ticket item value thing, then that's actually not a terrible spend depending on what your other costs are. So you need to start to do a bit more analysis on what actually happens post that click, right? Are they converting into clients, or are they still paying attention to what you're doing and eventually they'll become clients? So I said to him, don't rule out Google just yet. Do a little bit more analysis and see what happens when they click. And potentially you may need to just refine your campaigns, search terms and things like that. So that's the second thing I wanted to get onto. So on the search term side of things, this is a piece of analysis in itself, because you may be searching for a copywriter, for example, and you may think that relevant keywords for copywriting are copywriter, broad search, copywriting consultancy, or something like that, right? And those search terms basically will cover all sorts of different more refined search terms, like longer tail search terms which have more words around copywriting, right? But they're also the highest volume, the least specific, and generally the most expensive and the most competitive. So to start with, what you might want to do, if you have a very specific service, it makes a lot more sense to tailor that service. Let's say you're doing SEO copywriting, or let's say you're doing SEO copywriting for people in the property space. So it would make a lot more sense to include that as part of your keywords in the search string, so that when people type that kind of search and your marketing material and your page is tailored towards that kind of client or customer, then they're more likely to respond, right? Because now you know you have the right client because they're typing that search term. It's much less ambiguous, and they've landed on a page which is quite relevant to them, right? So that has quite a significant impact on your cost per click, essentially, right? Because your cost per conversion, sorry. So that is one of the key things that I would say to bear in mind. So to summarize, I said sort of like comparing apples and pears. Not totally like comparing apples and pears, they're both paid advertising. However, Google is a different mindset, right? People are already in the intention to engage with whatever they're searching for, right? They've got the intention now. And Facebook is more like, potentially you want to engage with people, potentially they may have some interest at a given moment, but it's much less likely. So you have to take that into consideration, and what I'd recommend is doing a little bit more analysis and trying to refine your keywords and refine and get some longer term keywords before you write off Google. So thanks very much, and I look forward to seeing you on the next video.